it looks like my screen is clearer now. Yay! Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is my channel, Leah Manaka, and I am Leah Manaka. I wanted to actually talk about, what do I want to talk about? I was going to talk about mental health, but I think I'm not ready to talk about that yet, because I'd have to obviously delve into some situations that I've obviously been through and still dealing with that shit. But I'll talk about my labor experience. So it seems like I've allowed myself to actually forget the things that have actually happened. I've actually allowed myself to think my contractions on my labor were shorter than it was, and then I actually read through a few messages and realized that it was actually quite long. But one thing I've realized, however, is that the pains that I was getting didn't feel like contractions. So let's start from the beginning. So I got to my due date, 10th of November, and I had to go to the clinic. Sat in that long ass line in the clinic, waited a bit. They checked me and they're like, okay, cool, you'll probably give birth within the next week, and then if you don't by 41 weeks, then you need to go to the hospital where you're giving birth at, and excuse the noise, you'll have to go to the hospital that you're giving birth at and get induced. I'm like, okay, cool. So every single day from that day, I was just anxious and nervous and everything. And weirdly enough, I think probably a week before my due date, I kept getting Braxton Hicks. Braxton Hicks contractions is basically false labor, but for me they were never hectic. It was just like period pains, basically. So I would continuously get Braxton Hicks, but like when I'm sleeping, not like I've gotten them hectically once when I was sitting down on the couch and I was just like, what is that? But that was it. Oh, by the way, this video is going to be in pieces because I'm at work right now and I really wanted to talk about it before I forget. So yeah, then obviously every day, like at night, you get Braxton Hicks. For me, it was always, you can't really sleep comfortably. I think I put a video up. I think it was part of my clips for the updates that I did put up before, where you can't really sleep. You need to pee almost all the time, but you have to be hydrated, so it was like a mission. But there was always Braxton Hicks and it felt like period pain, but it wasn't never anything too hectic. I researched on what I needed to look for to know that I was going to go into labor, like your mucus plug coming out, water breaking, what were the other ones? I think a little blood. I think those were the ones. So I always was checking, especially the week after my due date. I kept checking, but nothing really happened. So the Sunday and the Monday, I think was was it? I'm trying to remember which. I think it was the Sunday and the Monday. I decided to go for a walk because I wanted to put baby a bit lower and just get him ready for delivery. So, from 38 weeks, I was doing squats. I was actually trying to do more squats, like lower squats to also lower him, and try to do my yoga. So by the day that I was supposed to go, we went to the hospital. It was a public hospital. I did speak about the fact that My medical aid didn't pay and wasn't going to pay, and I did not have 35,000 rand lying around. It is something that you can save, but it's a bit difficult when there's so many things you have to save for, and there are some public hospitals that are actually quite good, so sometimes there's no need. And the hospital I went to was specifically for mothers and children, so they deal with this kind of stuff. But I mean, it's still a public hospital, so not everything's awesome. So from like 7 a.m., I was there, standing in line, sitting in lines, waiting to do tests, from blood tests, urine tests, and all of that. Checking baby's heart rate and all of that. By 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., I think it was. And by the way, this day, because I was on my feet so much and sitting down and not at home, relaxed, I did have Braxton Hicks, but for me it was just period pain. Eventually I had to, you get checked by the doctor to see obviously how the baby's lying and what's going on. When I eventually get checked, the doctor says to me, I'm actually having contractions. I was like, really? And they're like, aren't you in pain? I was like, nope. So they're like, okay, cool. You're going to have to be admitted. I'm just like, ugh. So they're like, no. But it wasn't like a rush because it was the beginning of the contraction. Then eventually at 4 is when they checked the baby's heart rate. Because they checked me while I was on my back, baby's heart rate did drop for like a few seconds, and that worried them. So because of that, and because it was already 4 p.m. and they were leaving and everything, they couldn't check again because they had to check again. So because they couldn't check again, they had to put in a drip and put in a catheter. Painful shit. They had to put in a catheter, and because there was a possibility that I would have to get a C-section if his heart rate was still messed up after they did the tests for his heart rate again. Okay, cool. So we basically, they put in the catheter, they put in the drip, both painful. I know you're supposed to be calm, whatever, when you do this shit, but like, no. Anyway, so I had these two things in from like 5, around 5 o'clock. Then I had to go get, what's it called? I had to go basically be put into the hospital. I can't think of the word. So cool. Went through the hospital. My boyfriend was there. Unfortunately, because of Corona, because it's a women's hospital, blah blah blah, he wasn't allowed in certain places. But we always tried to, him and I always tried to actually be not too far from each other. And because unfortunately we didn't have a car at that time, he had to like stand in certain places and like move around so that the securities didn't catch him. But I'm really grateful that it went the way it did. Oh, by the way, I did some I think it's called hypnobirthing. I'll try to put the book up somewhere. It helps, it gives you certain teas that you can drink to help ripen the cervix. I think it's called cervix. There's certain teas that also help with labor and pushing, and and it also gives yoga poses and stuff like that you can do, and it helps with breathing techniques. So yeah, I did those kind of things, and I tried my best to stay as positive as possible. I did not want to be negative about anything, so all the information I got, I tried to make sure I got it from sort of positive stuff. So I was very interested during pregnancy, I was very interested in labor videos on YouTube, but the labor videos I watched were the ones that were positive labor videos. Like, even if it looked like it was painful, I wanted people who were like, you know what, I did go through pain, but it wasn't that bad. I did this and this, but it wasn't that. Like, I wanted people who had positive mindsets, not the ones who'd be like, oh, my labor was so hectic, Gandhi. Like, the only thing that was bad is your labor pains. Like, nothing really hectic happened. So yeah, I followed a lot of mummies on Instagram, and I watched a lot of labor videos, but I tried my best to be as positive as possible, because that's all I wanted. I wanted to be positive throughout my pregnancy, and I wanted to be positive when it got to labor. I was kind of scared, but I think I was scared. Let me say, labor, I would say I was scared before I felt pregnant. During pregnancy, I wasn't really scared. Give me a sec. During labor, I wasn't really scared. It's just like, it actually went quite fast for me, and I was quite excited, like, oh, let me see my baby. Like, I think the only time I got scared was closer to the time, but I wasn't scared. Like, I felt like everything was going to happen best case scenario, and if the best case scenario was supposed to be something that we as humans would consider bad, that is how it was supposed to happen. That's why I kind of like, I wanted the best kind of labor, but I kind of just allowed myself to not be as hectic about it. I don't want to be too, what's the word? It's like you jot down or you journal or you like think of how you want it to be, but when it happens in a different way, you don't hate yourself or hate the moment because it happened differently. Okay, cool. So I got to the side of the hospital. I told them I'm checking in. It's not checking in, it's another word. I used it at the beginning. Can't think of it now. And then I had to go downstairs to go fetch my bags for my boyfriend. Thank goodness he was still there. And that's a whole like 9-10 hours of just being there. And I appreciate him so much for that. So he gave me my bags. I overpacked. I'll try to let you know what I had for, but in a different video. I overpacked for baby, but I think I was kind of just trying to have enough stuff. I overpacked for baby, and I think I overpacked for myself. But I guess it was a good thing, because there were some people who were still there after 2 days, after 3 days. Those who had to do a C-section, obviously the C-section people, you get scheduled, and it depends how, if it's an emergency, if it's not. If it's not an emergency, you wait. There were people there who were like there for a week, 2 weeks, and they were still waiting. There was a girl there who was getting induced with everything, from this weird clear liquid that they have to drink, to that other, it's like a bubble thing. When you're pregnant, I know you're gonna research this shit and try to find out about it, but there's this like, it's like a balloon. They put it inside your what, and they like blow it up to make your cervix big enough and ready for baby. So that's how. And what's the other one? I think those are the ones I can remember. Anyway, she was there for long, and she kept saying, "No, I'm not going into labor," blah blah blah, and I'm like, shame. But I'm going too far forward. Anyway, cool. I got my bags. Had to sit on the bench and wait, because the way you get a bed is if the mama's going to labor. So one by one, those of us who were on the bench, there were like five or six of us. Those of us who were on the bench would go and get a bed and get a bed and get a bed. I had kind of even forgotten that I was in labor. Now that I think about it, I know I was talking to my boyfriend about the fact that my pains are getting a bit progressive, but slowly. So it wasn't hectic. I could go to the toilet. I paused. So they did the heartbeat test again for the baby, and he was fine. So they took out the catheter, thank God, because I think it was painful. And the only thing I had in still was the drip. Cool, I went to the other side, and that's when I got my bag from my boyfriend. Cool. That's when we waited, and we waited for beds. And we were sitting there for a while. At the end, 10 p.m., it was me and this other girl who had... Hello? Me and this other girl, who was the girl who was going to have a C-section. Okay, cool. This girl, she came after me. She came in at like 7 p.m. But like, so we're just chilling there, waiting for a bed. There were girls like screaming. So one was in a wheelchair screaming, going to the labor ward. There was another one who was screaming. She went into the corridor and she was in pain. She was in hectic pain. And I'm like, oh, hectic. She was in hectic pain. She had twins, but she was in a lot of pain. Like, they had to give her pain. I don't know what painkillers they use, but they had to give her painkillers. So yeah, we waited. I wasn't sleepy, but I kind of was. But like, you know, when you're at a new place, I can't really sleep when I'm at a place. And since we were still on the bench, I was just like, So just chilling, just chatting, and stuff like that. And then eventually around 3 a.m., 4 a.m., I got a bed. Imagine I was sitting the whole time. I got a bed finally. So I napped a bit. Then 6 a.m. they came to check all the women. So basically, it's almost like a res, the way it's set up, because there's different rooms. Each room has a name on it, like what it's supposed to be. Like the room I was in was the induced or getting induced room. The other rooms were like C-section. The other ones were like emergencies. Like there were different rooms, and in each room there would be like, I think it's 6 beds, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. Cool. I get my bed, I sleep. 6 a.m. It's a checkup. Cool. They were supposed to check my urine again, but I didn't know this. And they're like, so every morning we usually check urine, blah blah blah. So next time, you know, I'm like, okay, cool. They check the baby's heartbeat, and then they sort of check me, and they said, okay, cool, you're having contractions. I'm like, yeah, apparently I am. Started around 1 p.m. yesterday or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, that's when they checked, and they said, and they're like, okay, cool. Let's check if you're dilated before we give you, did they? I don't really remember. I think they said, let's check if you're dilated, because they wanted to see if they need to induce me. Also, they checked and I was already 2 centimeters dilated, 2 or 3 centimeters dilated. So I was like, no, I was 2 centimeters dilated. And they're like, dude, you're in labor. I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, you're not in pain. I'm like, no. They're like, that's crazy. I'm like, okay, well, not in pain. Like, I was still, my cramps or my contractions were still like period pains. And okay, cool. So they check me, and it's like, okay, cool. What we're gonna do is we're gonna check you again around 10 a.m. I think we're gonna check you again around 10 a.m. in case we need to induce you or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, to speed up the contractions, basically. I'm like, okay, cool. So we ate breakfast, then I had another nap. Then around 10 a.m. they didn't come back. Yeah, they didn't come back. So I was just like, okay, let me just go for a walk, because apparently this house baby come down. So I go for a walk I had been going up and down the corridor, but I wanted to go outside for air, So I went outside, and all this time I'm okay. Like I'm like not scared, I'm not worried. I'm just like, let's see when this decides to happen. Okay, cool. Then I'll go for a walk. Hey, I go for a walk with the girl who was in the bed next to me. And then we go up the stairs, and then some nurses laugh at us. I'm like, hey, we need these babies to cover. Then we go downstairs and we kind of chill outside. I think I have a picture of that. I'll put it somewhere. And I was just talking to my boyfriend, telling him that, they said, they said I'm dilated and whatever. It's like, okay, cool. Then we come back around 11:30 or whatever. Then 12 p.m. midday, the doctors come back, a different doctor, and they check us, right? Check heartbeat, check if I'm dilated. Now I'm 4 centimeters dilated. And they're like, are you not feeling any pain? I'm like, no. They're like, well, you're in, I would call it the second phase of labor. Let's call it something else. I'll try to see if I can find it. I'm like, oh, really? And they're like, yeah, now you're going to the labor ward. I'm like, already? It's like, yeah, we take people to the labor ward at 4 centimeters. I'm like, okay. Cool. I take all my stuff, we go to the labor ward, and I was hoping that I'd be able to walk around, but they had that monitor thing around me. I'll try to put a picture up. So I couldn't walk around. I asked if I could, and I couldn't. And I was just like, oh, I really wanted to walk around just to speed up this thing, but it was fine. Lay down, I was chatting to my boyfriend, I was just chatting. Okay, so now I'm in the labor ward. This is the part that gets a bit fuzzy because it went so fast. 2 p.m. I'm in the labor ward. They're checking the heart rate, blah blah blah. And obviously checking the contractions. They are getting a bit more hectic, but not too hectic that I'm like crying. Then they have to around 4 or 5 o'clock. No, around 4, I think it was. They had to break the water. So they gave me this other injection. I asked one of my doctor friends what she thinks it is, and she said it was, write it down at the bottom. And I was like, at the time I didn't know. I was just like, I feel high as fuck right now. I even told my boyfriend, like, I couldn't talk properly. That's how high I was. I couldn't chat properly. Like, everything was weird. I was just like, dude, I can't right now. So literally I just chilled. So they broke the water. It's like with this weird sort of thing. They put it in and they kind of, I don't even remember what they did, but it went, like I felt, it was almost like, it's like when you're pissing sort of, but it was just like a release. But like at the time I was just like not even there. So basically, I was at the part with when I was in labor ward and after getting the drug. So they broke my water. And I was cool for a little bit. And then probably half an hour later, that's when shit started getting real. By 5 p.m., by 5 p.m. it was lit. And I kept screaming for the doctor, like, I don't know what they were doing. I think they just thought I was wiling out, basically. But it makes sense because, okay, I'll explain why afterwards. So cool. I kept screaming, doctor, because I wanted them to come check me, like check how far I am. And the part that I'm going to explain is that contractions aren't that hectic. It's just that when they started getting a bit sore, I was just chilling, doing my breathing techniques out the fucking window, but it helped me stay calm. sorry for the noise, it helped me stay calm. But literally, as soon as the doctor came back to check on me, he's like, I can see you've been pushing. And I'm like, no, I have not. And he's like, you've been pushing. I'm like, no, I have not. Now, obviously, because he said this to me, when he leaves, I think it was 6 p.m., he checks me and he's like, what did he say? I think he said I'm 10, I think it was 6:30, 6 p.m. He checks me and he's like, yeah, you're almost there. It's almost time to push. I'm like, okay, cool. So what's happening now? He's like, no, I'm knocking off now. I'm like, fuck. Oh. Like, honestly, contractions aren't hectic. The part that's hectic is trying to hold in the baby because Nana wants to come out. Nana's trying to come out. So that's the part that was hectic for me. Like, I was fine the whole time until he said to me, you're pushing. And that time I was not. I was just chilling. I was just trying to breathe through the pains. Okay, cool. Now I'm trying to hold. Then he leaves. And I'm like, okay, cool. Next doctor is probably going to come in now. I think it was like an hour. Like 7 o'clock was the time that they came in and they asked me to start pushing. But I think it was like an hour of me chilling there trying to hold a baby in my vajayjay. Basically. So, cool. I'm like there, I'm screaming for the doctor, screaming for the doctor, screaming for the doctor. I'm like, doctor, like I'm screaming. And then it was annoying because like I'm trying to hold this baby in and I know if I try just relax that he will probably just come out because that's what it felt like. So I kept screaming for the doctor. I think it's because of public hospital, government hospital, whatever. They literally came in, kappa 6. They checked me, and like this is the day, guys. Delivery day is fucked up. They poke and prod you so many fucking times. I think the checking of the cervix or how dilated you are is the worst fucking thing ever. Like, it doesn't feel fucked up, it's just annoying. Like, I'm a doctor, gloves on. Let me poke you and see how far you are. I'm joking, I don't know what they do. But at the time, it didn't annoy me. At the time, I was just like, you know what, let's get to 10 centimeters, let's get baby out of here. Okay. So, honestly, the time that I can say my contractions were hectic was probably from 5 or 4:30, around maybe 4 o'clock until he came out. Because honestly, okay, let's actually say they were hectic between 4 and the time that they allowed me to start pushing. When they allowed me to start pushing, it wasn't that hectic because you're actually concentrating on doing something else other than really the pain. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So I'm like waiting for them to come back because now I'm 10 centimeters. After they broke the water, that's when it became hectic. So now I'm 10 centimeters dilated. I want to give birth. From like 6:30 until 7, and it felt like forever. I'm still waiting. Now I'm trying to hold this baby in but that was the painful part. And when they checked me out when I was 10 centimeters, that's when I wanted to cry. But like it wasn't like tears cry. It was like, I'm tired of holding this baby in now. I am ready to push. Like I could feel my body was ready. So they're like, why you want to cry now? I'm like, because I'm ready to push. Not because I'm in pain or because the pain is hectic, but because I'm ready to push. That's how I knew my pain threshold is quite, I think they call it high. Because honestly, it wasn't that bad, but it's annoying. Like, if I could just let my body do what it wanted to do, I would have given birth by myself. Anyway, so cool. The doctor that was about to help me give birth was this black gay guy who I loved from the get-go. His energy from the get-go, when I was sitting on the bench, his energy, it spoke to me. And this other girl who was loud AF, but I liked them. They had a very nice vibe about them, and you could tell they're either in their early 20s or early 30s. They're like either in their 20s or early 30s. I don't know why I said it like that. So cool. He comes in, I'm like, yes, it's this guy. And then he comes in with one of the interns. Intern is an Indian guy. He is small. You can tell he's young. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't even care that there's a nigga looking down there because yo, I need this babe to come up. Cool. Time to push. Did my baby's head not want to come out of my head there, JJ? And I was pushing, bruh. At first I was trying to do the techniques that I was taught by Ephraim in the book. But it was taking time. Like where they say breathe the baby out. When you're having the contractions, you just... and it should just happen. And I think I was naturally doing that. At the beginning, before that guy said I was pushing. I think I was naturally just trying to breathe, and I was breathing the baby out. But now, because I told to push, that's what I was trying to do. And they're like, no, you must push like you're trying to shit. And I'm like, bro. So obviously, hold your fucking knees and you push. But like when the contractions come, when you feel the contraction, you push. And I'm like, okay, cool. Baby's head doesn't want to come out. And like now I'm getting frustrated, and I can tell baby's probably getting frustrated, and I'm like, why is it not coming out? And it didn't feel like it was that long, but like an hour later, I'm back like I never left. I'm back like I never left. Sorry for the noise. Another day, same video. So basically, I was at the part where I couldn't push Nana's head out. So because of this reason, what doctors usually do is they take what's the thing called, a scalpel, I think, and they cut so that it can open up just a little bit. Now, because of the contractions, because of the moment, I couldn't feel when he was cutting. Like it was like like a little pinch, but it didn't really feel that hectic. So cool, he's cutting. I try to push. You can feel it's almost coming out, but like I can't push anymore. Then he retracts back, and I'm like, the fuck. And he kept saying to me, "You're not pushing." I'm like, nigga. So cool. He leaves, and I keep trying to push. Like I'm like hoping that his head will pop out while the other doctor's gone, and while I'm still with the intern. So I didn't have an issue. I just pushed. I think probably 2 times or 3 times. By the time the doctor came back, he had come back with one of the doulas, which was a mama, probably a woman in her late 40s, probably even early 50s. She's obviously been doing this, and she might have been doing it even with like home births and stuff like that. Okay, cool. She comes in, and she's like, well, I don't know what they said to each other. I think she said, what's wrong? Okay, we're going to try to get this baby out. Don't worry. Cool. And I wasn't worried at the time. Like, I didn't even know how much time had passed. To me, it was 10 minutes, but it had been an hour. Okay, so cool. What she did, I don't remember what she did exactly, but obviously, because you have to, like, hold on to your knees and, like, lean forward and try to push. She was like, push, and then while I was pushing, she was pushing down on my stomach. So obviously they know where the baby is, so she feels where the baby is, and she pushes down on my stomach. So the first thing that came out when she did that was amniotic fluid, and it went all over her. And she's like, look what you did. But she didn't say it. I think she said it in Sutu. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, it's fine. I deal with this all the time. And then she did another push, and there was baby's head. So literally, I don't know, maybe my vajayjay didn't want to open up or whatever. And there was baby's head, and I was shocked. I'm like looking down, I'm like, there's a head between my legs. Like, I was just shocked. And I was just looking at him, and he had that white, because they have this white sort of thing on them that helps protect their skin inside that water and stuff like that. When you get pregnant, you'll read up on it and understand. I forget the terms and the information and all of that right now. Anyway, cool. His head was between my legs, and then they were like to me, okay, push now. Then I pushed again, and his whole body came out. So cool. I just looked at him, and he cried just for like a second. And I was like, okay, well, he's breathing. And his eyes were open. Apparently baby's eyes aren't supposed to be open. And I was just like, okay. Then I think he chilled there for just a little bit. The lady who left, and it was just me and the doctor and the intern again. And I forgot to tell them to delay the cord clamping. Okay, I was saying I only got around 5 to 10 minutes of skin to skin at that time, because they needed to take him to go get his vaccines, his born vaccine. They get vaccines, they get checked and weighed and all that. Okay, cool. So the intern took pictures. So the doctor went somewhere. I don't know where he went. I wasn't really concentrating. Intern took pictures. Sorry, my other words. Intern took pictures, and then because I wanted to remember that moment. And then the doctor came back, took my baby, and then they went to go do all those tests and stuff like that. So he obviously took him there, and then he came back. Intern was done, and he's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go back, go find another person to help, because obviously, for some reason, these doctor interns are really fascinated with like stuff. I'll tell you another story of when I had to go back to the hospital with my baby, but that's a different story completely, and I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk about it. But yeah, intern left. Then it was just me and the doctor, and I was on my phone. I sent a picture to my boyfriend, and I'm like, "Guess who's here?" And yeah, and the doctor injected me in with something to obviously numb it, whatever. And then he started stitching, and it felt like I was sitting there for so long. Like the inside when he was stitching wasn't bad. It was when he had to go more to the outside. Yeah, I could feel it. Like, and I told him, like, I can feel this. And he's like, yeah, unfortunately, the injection only works on, like, goddamn. Like, I could feel it, like, and it's weird because giving birth, the head coming up, everything coming up wasn't hectic. But when he started going, yes, yes. Once he was done, I stood up. Obviously, the place was a mess, but I just stood up. I took my stuff, and they told me to go to the bed. They have like a line of like maybe 6 beds on the other side once you've given birth. And then I just sat there. I got dressed. Now it's obviously time to put on TMI for those who. It's time to put on a pad, because now obviously you're going to start bleeding and everything that needs to come out. So basically, when you get pregnant, you'll read up on this, but basically what comes out of you is what was left inside by the baby and needs to come out. And it's sort of that sort of first period is the cleansing of the inside that needs to come out. That's it. That's why they have such dank pads. Such horrible pads. Oh, I hate them so much. They're not like your normal supported pads. It's like a square. The worst thing I've ever used. Anyway, cool. Waited for my baby. They brought back my baby who was still wrapped in a blanket thing, sheet thing, and then obviously I had to get him dressed. And I said, get him dressed, and I can't stay on the bed because it's a public hospital. Next lady, when they're done, I must come out and get into the bed. Cool. Now I'm sitting on a plastic chair. So uncomfortable because now I have stitches done. But I wasn't thinking about it. I was just like, you know what, let's just try get baby ready. First time I went to piss, I was terrified, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And then got baby dressed, sat on those horrible plastic chairs that you find at the clinics and shit. And baby was here in his cot. He was right next to me the whole time. But now get 8. Obviously, it's around 9, 9 when I'm done, because he was born around 8:20, 8:30, I think. Cool. Now we wait. They give us food, we chill, and they say, okay, cool. So tomorrow is when we can go home, but we can only go home once the baby has eaten. Great. Baby on the boob. He ain't latching because he's obviously used to the fallopian tube giving him food automatically. He's obviously used to the fallopian tube giving him food automatically, so now it's a thing of getting him used to the latching. And I've watched a lot of videos about this shit. Now I'm trying to get him to latch, and it's not working. But I'm not frustrated. I'm so calm. I'm still just doing it. Cool. We couldn't sleep because obviously we were on chairs, so kind of fucked up. Around 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I don't know how that night went because it seemed like it went so fast. Anyway, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Here's new nurses who obviously need to do tests on us. They need to do HIV tests, glucose or sugar tests. They need to test the baby. They need to test us just to make sure that we are good, like that the doctor did a good job and that we're going to heal good. Like they obviously check. They had to check obviously our breasts to see if we would be able to breastfeed at some point. They needed to check the latching of the baby and all of that. So they keep us in a room and they give us what's it called? Prevention stuff. So they ask you which prevention do you want: injection, pills, or I forget what the third one was. Cool. Then they give you those, and then we kind of chill. We eat, obviously, and then they keep doing tests just to make sure or to see whether the person can leave. So now I tell a boyfriend that, you know what, if you can come through, we're almost done. So baby kind of had an issue feeding. That's a different story that I'm not going to state right now. He had an issue feeding, but I did try my best. He was eating here and there, but not as much as he was supposed to. So they gave him formula, and literally in a small, I'm going to say a shot glass because that's the size it was, and that's all the baby needs. So they gave that to him, but that he always threw it up. So that's another story I'm going to let you know of the first week with my nana. Anyway, so cool. Then once his sugar was fine and everything was fine, they gave me the clinic book that they give every baby. Supposed to have a clinic book to keep up with the stuff that he needs or that they do at the hospital or whatever. Give him the clinic book, and then we left. So I had to So I had to cover him, and finally we got home. His dad, his uncle, and his grandma got to meet him for the first time, and he was so small. Oh my! But the first week was hectic. I'll explain in the video, but that's basically it. That's my Leah story. Anyway, I was saying that we need to be more mindful and careful of the things that we allow into our spaces. And just be kinder to ourselves, especially when we're pregnant, because now we're trying to protect a whole other human being who is not at a point where they can protect themselves yet. And yes, they may be closer to the higher realms and the higher beings because they just came out from that and they haven't been affected by the world's mess. So just protect yourself and allow yourself to do as much as you possibly can to love yourself so much more. And yeah, I think that's about it. But yeah, love and light to all of you in these times of craziness that's happening in this world. Love, light, and progress to all of you. If you do want to chat to me, I am on Instagram, Leah Manaka. Twitter, Leah Manaka. I'm not really on Twitter, but I try to go in and out once in a while. Facebook, I have a spiritual group called Sunflower Seeds Spiritual Group. If you want to join it, we do try to show each other love as much as possible. But if you want to chat to me personally and you don't have my WhatsApp number, just follow me on Instagram and DM me and we can have a chat there. If you have any questions as well, comment below. And you can share this video with whoever you feel might need a little more love and info about. I mean, I didn't really say anything, but it was just my story. But biggest thing I can say is be positive. Like in general, try your best to be positive and just live life the way you think is best for you. Thank you so much for watching.